Welcome to the Spark Good Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration, strategies, and stories that will ignite your passion for making a difference through your business. I'm your host, Stephanie Malon-Rufi, and together we are going to dive into the world of entrepreneurship and explore how we can harness its power to spark good in our world and change how we do business. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Spark Good Podcast. I'm so excited to have you listening, and I'm so grateful that you are joining me on this episode. And I'm just going to take today's inaugural episode to introduce myself and talk a little bit about the work that I do and what you can expect with this podcast. So I'm just going to dive right in and tell you a little bit about myself. I have a background I've worked both in nonprofit and in business. And my passion now is really how can we use business and sort of market-based business as a vehicle for social change. And, you might know there's a lot of names for this. The field of using business for social change is evolving and continuing to grow. You might have heard of social entrepreneurship, social enterprise, social business, social impact business, mission-based business, all kinds of names. I could go on. And to be honest, I'm kind of less interested in what we're calling it and more interested in how we're doing it. So just so you know that my work and I encompass kind of all those different names and terminologies. The ones I use most of the time are business as a vehicle for social change, social entrepreneurship, and social business. So you might hear me use those more than others, but just so you know, all of it, I encompass all of it. And as I said, what I'm really curious about is how can we do this and really use our businesses in a way that's positive for our world and also for ourselves. So to go to my journey a little bit to how did I get to this place and the passion that I have, I would say that my connection between my own work and the larger world, that's always been important for me. And it's taken me a lot of different twists and turns to get to where I am. I would say early in my career, I was first introduced to the concept of social enterprise. And this was, over 20 years ago. Prior to that, I was working in a social enterprise at the time. But just prior to that, I had been doing some direct care and social services. I had a stint in corporate America. And so I had a couple of different experiences and then started working for a nonprofit that a majority of its revenue was coming from earned income. And this was really built as what you would view as a employment model of social entrepreneurship. And that's where the business has employment opportunities that are specifically for people who might face, barriers to employment. And in this case, we were employing individuals who had completed primary treatment programs for addiction and were now living in halfway houses and needing to have income and get a job. But a lot of times these individuals will have a very spotty work history, may not even have some soft skills job training, might have had time in jail. So various, components that make it difficult to find employment. So this organization ran several businesses and employed these individuals, offering a supportive, sober work environment and helping to find some permanent employment. Well, my experience there really got me excited about, I love how we are really blending using business. We're not solely on a fundraising, grant writing model, that it's really kind of blending different ways to have income come in. And I learned that I really loved the business side of things. I was especially into strategy and marketing, but I didn't really have a lot of hard business skills and decided that I was going to go to grad school full time to earn my MBA. So needless to say, I was a bit of an outlier in my MBA program. To begin with, there was less than 20% of the students were women. And I would say a majority of everyone wanted to head off to a corporate career. not everyone. And I would say there was a contingent that was interested in entrepreneurship, and that's actually where I found my home there. And so I spent a lot of time in that area while I was in grad school. And when I graduated, I began working part-time for a startup, woman-owned social business, had a very strong environmental impact piece to it. And so I was working there part-time. I started to take on some strategic marketing projects in a consulting sense or in a consulting capacity. And as time went on, I also helped to launch a nonprofit. I did some consulting in the area of strategic planning. I was coaching executive directors who managed social service programs, but also had earned income streams. I had some other projects here and there. And over the course of time, this led me to really hone in on the work that I'm doing today, and which is working especially one-on-one with entrepreneurs, and even more specifically, social entrepreneurs, those who want to use their business as a vehicle for social change. And thus, that brings me to my business, which is Spark Good. So a little bit about, I rebranded my company about 2 years ago, and it really came from the desire of the spark, right? The light, the inspiration, the new ideas into the world, sparking that, and then also encouraging people to do good with their business, right? So that's where Spark Good came from. And my work really centers on what I call the Spark Good approach, and that's a holistic approach to entrepreneurship. And I focus on 3 key areas. And so I want to talk about those. The first one is overall business strategy. So this is positioning yourself for success, and that's going to start with a well-defined business strategy. Now, depending on your stage of business and your needs, the kind of how we approach that will vary, but it's really helping you to identify what's your unique selling proposition. Are you targeting the right market to go into? Developing a solid business plan and creating some sustainable growth strategies. So that's one big area that I work with clients. The second one is personal growth and wellness. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, but that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest personal development journeys you'll ever go on. And having been on it myself, I would say that's pretty true. And so I think the quicker you can embrace that, realize it, incorporate it, the better. And so, as an entrepreneur, your personal growth and your well-being really are essential for the long-term success of your business. And this is where I cover topics like self-care, mindset development, kind of the whole work life, how is it all coming together, nurturing your own passions and strengths, knowing like where your zone of genius is and really staying in that lane, and making sure that you're able to thrive both personally and professionally. And then the third area that I work in is the social impact piece. So making a positive impact on society, right? That's at the heart of this Spark Good approach. We're always thinking about that impact piece with a lot of decisions. And this is, how do you integrate social responsibility into business practices, both internally and externally? That can be ethical sourcing, it can be sustainable operations, ethical marketing, ditching that 60 plus hours work week norm, right? No hustle and grind. It's community engagement, it's philanthropic initiatives. So all of that is in that social impact pillar. So those really are the 3 areas that I approach the work that I do with entrepreneurs, and really all of those 3 areas are important to give attention to if you really want to grow a business that's successful and sustainable. So a lot of the work results in clarity and confidence for the business owner, having that sustainable business strategy that has consistent revenue and a positive social impact, having an implementable action plan for you, the business owner, and if you have a team, how do you fit them in? Really helping to think through what's the best plan to use for all of us. Also, getting entrepreneurs on a faster track with their business so that they spend less time spinning wheels and more time taking focused, decisive action. And more, a lot of times I will help co-create things with entrepreneurs that I'm working with. And it really depends on what you need to get that traction in your business. It can be a marketing plan. It could be simplifying your sales system, improving your client onboarding process, how you're bringing on team members, all sorts of examples there. But that's a lot of what the results of the work that I do. These are the things that come forward for the entrepreneurs and for the small businesses. And as of now, if you're listening to this in real time, we are heading into the fall of 2023. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the way that I work with people. All right. So the first way that I work with people is a spark session. And this would just be a one-time way that we could work together. It's a 90-minute virtual call. Really, it's an opportunity to dive into probably a current challenge, maybe a big decision you need to make. You need a second brain to help you kind of brainstorm, think of strategic ideas, perhaps make that decision, decide what your initial next steps are. I can provide that feedback, insights, a chance to really kick in my brain. But this can just really be a great option if, boy, you just really need to just get through a big hurdle that you're facing. A second way is something that's called a Spark Strategy Intensive. So this is where you want to take a big leap forward on the path to creating your sustainable business. This is where you're ready to just go for it. So it could be that you have a new offer that you've been wanting to get out there and you just need that launch plan. That would be one example. It could be that you have a lot of balls in the air and you've got to grab one of them and go with it. The idea is that we have a half day, what I call a VIP work session. So that's going to be a solid 3 to 4 hours of just kind of hashing out what's happening and putting together, okay, what's the next six weeks going to be for you? That's what we do in a Spark Strategy Intensive. And then the third way is through one-on-one private coaching. And this does require a 6-month commitment. So this is, we go deep and we go long, right? 6 months I have found gives enough time to really make some strides. And this can be strides in your business. And this is also where a lot of times if you find that you might have certain mindset patterns that happen for you, or you get stuck at certain places and you just also really need some outside perspective and help to change some of those patterns for yourself. This is where coaching can be really helpful. It's personalized guidance, helping you to really focus on your business and stay true to that, helping you to develop your strategy and stay accountable and make sure you keep going forward on the path that you've decided you want to go on. I see a lot of times that entrepreneurs, they start something that really excited and then you do a month and then, I'm not sure this is going. And then it's so easy to just switch gears and get distracted by some other shiny object. But when we work together for 6 months, we can really whittle down to what is it you should be doing and how can you keep doing it? What's your plan that you're going to put together? And you're going to stay doing it and stick with it, because this is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and we need to make our decisions and stick with them and really have the fruits of the labor come forward once we're able to do that. So that's where the private coaching comes into play. I will say, coming into 2024, I am going to be launching the Spark Good Collective, and that's going to be a community of social impact business owners, mentoring, group coaching, training, and having support from one another. So I'm really excited, and you'll hear more about that in the new year. Okay, so what is this podcast? And I want to talk a little bit about why I'm starting it and what you can expect from it. And, overall, one of sort of my passion is bringing more attention to the ways that we can do business differently and really centering humanity. So how can we center humanity and not just the money? And I'm not saying money's not important, but traditional business ends up externalizing so many costs and causing harm. So how can we better blend making money and having positive social impact? That's where I hope that this podcast is going to bring more thoughts and more voices to that conversation. And I want to help you discover how you can align your business goals with meaningful causes and contribute to a better world. Plus, for you, the business owner, let's learn how to nurture your own well-being, and really change some of these traditional rules that can hold us back. And how can we thrive in this role as a social business owner and really love it and not live in a world where we feel like our business is running us, but where we feel like we're running our business. So that's really where I see the Spark Good podcast coming in. So there's going to be hopefully a lot of inspiration, sharing of stories, but then also some real strategies and tools and tactics that can be helpful. So I'm envisioning a blend of those, and I think it's going to be pretty spectacular. So going forward, you can expect to hear from me on the podcast every Tuesday is when the podcast is going to release. Now, there's a couple other ways that you can connect with me or be part of the conversation. So in addition to having the podcast, I also do send out a weekly Friday email. Now, they are short, they're simple, there's 1 to 2 key takeaways, but I would encourage you to sign up for that. There's a link in the show notes if you want to go ahead and join my Friday mail list. I am moderately active on LinkedIn and Instagram. Also, if you haven't been to my website, please go there. It's sparkgood.net. I have a resource page that has some freebies on there that might be helpful for you. There's also a quiz. Is your business impacting social change? So go and check that out. And lastly, this is not my first time podcasting. I actually co-hosted a podcast called the Social Change Leaders Podcast for over 3 years. And all those episodes, I think there's over 170, are still there. So there is a catalog of those, and those are also on my website. But I encourage you to peek through them in case there's something that is of interest to you there as well. All right. So coming to the end of this first episode, and I thank you for staying with me to the end. Thank you for joining me today. Other episodes, we're going to really get into more content. I just wanted to share who I am so you can get to know me as well. And I do ask, please share this episode with anyone who you think needs to hear it, who might enjoy it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating and review, because those actually really do help other people to find the podcasts. All right. Again, thank you for being here. Let's go out there. Let's keep moving forward and make positive change for ourselves and for our world.